Hello there, and welcome to the first park release of this wonderful recreation. Over the last couple of weeks, I'm literally building every day on this park. Initially, I just wanted to polish up the entry area, but at some point it dawned on me I have to do now this esplanade area. I mean, when you don't want to have there any immersion breaking spots anymore, you have to do the whole area. And so eventually I came to that conclusion. Now, apart from that, it's also just nice to have now something very special for this occasion here to show you something completely new that nobody has seen before. So before I start my tour and guide you through all the things that we have now in this park, let me just say, if you want to explore it for yourself or discover it on your own, you can do that now. It's on the workshop, and I put the share code in the description of this video. So with this little introduction out of the way, I want to show you around. When we are orbiting around the park now, you can clearly see that we have here now additions in the park that I did not cover so far, at least in the time-lapse as well. So apart from the esplanade, which is obviously the biggest addition right now, there are countless tiny little details that I added, of which some I will show you now, but also some that I will intentionally not show, so that you have there something to discover for your own. So when we start now our tour, the first thing that I thought was very crucial for this entire look here is to have like this long stretched strip of palms sitting in front of the ferry boat station. And then when we come to the station itself, previously it was only like this platform without any fencing or railings or whatsoever. And so I really am gone into detail here. But I feel now with all those fences in place and the path logic that people also exactly walk there where they are supposed to walk, it finally gives this area now a proper function. Now when recreating this area, the geometry and placement of all those things are pretty straightforward, but the difficult thing is that this whole esplanade area was completely different before 2021. When you, for example, look on Google Maps right now, it still shows the version before that. And the same thing is kinda also happening to reference images. You are always encountering either one of those variations. Eventually I digged it through at some point and found out in my mind how this whole area works in a way. But it was really a pain in the butt, I have to say. Now, one thing to the actual guest logic of how people are interacting with this park in the game. First, they spawning in the ferryboat station, and then they make their way up to those vanilla park gates right here. I positioned them right here because I did not want them to collide with my custom scenery in any way. And then they are free to go wherever they like, right? Now, in a second you will see that I also did a little bit of backlot work. This was, in a way, the initial reason why I want to polish up this entry area, and, well, let's just say it developed from there on. But once I started here, I noticed very quickly that you can fall down a huge rabbit hole. Since we are doing a recreation, we always have to care about those two things, right? On the one side, the accurate depiction of realism, or what you see on those images, and at the same time, the abstraction of that, how you can implement something like that in this game that is reasonable. And so oftentimes it's really difficult to find that sweet spot. But at least when it came down now to those roofs on those esplanade buildings, I really played around with those decals that we are having in the game, and luckily we have there certain decals that you can scale up and down with the right color in such a way that you kinda get a pretty realistic appearance, I would say. But again, it was countless hours of work in finding there a good-looking solution, and that's, by the way, also something that I like to mention here. Everything that you see is open for change. There were many parts, especially when it came down to those planter beds, where I'm still not really 100% sure if I leave them like they are right now. In reality, you have there so many different foliage items and hedge formations where you have on one side grass and then those bumped up hedges, also in different sorts of colors. which is, by the way, one of the biggest weaknesses if you ask me when it comes to placing down hedges in this game. They are only in one color. How cool would it be if you could recolor them? So when we continue our tour here, you can see now in a second also something completely new, and that's gift shops. Especially in this entrance area you have like shops on the left and right, and they are like made for that. And so I came up with my own set of interior work here, in again trying to find a sweet balance between realism and abstraction. And the one thing that I also had in my mind is modularity. Since this is certainly not the last interior that we are making, or last gift shop that we are making, we want to make all those elements that we are creating here most versatile so that we can reuse them in all those other interiors that are still to come. And lastly, it's also fairly great to finally have here something in the spotlight of the park where you can see people getting interactive, and you finally have here a reason to go here. So far up to this point, they only are roaming pointlessly through the park, but now they can actually buy themselves something. So up to this point, as you could see, I completely revamped the entire entrance area, and the last thing that I wanted to change as well was this flower bed in front of the station. As you probably know, I created the first flower bed very early in this project, and especially during those retimes in the past episodes, more and more it kinda annoyed me, and I just wanted to have a proper flower bed here that is in the same quality as the entire park build. So up to this point, this is pretty much all the new stuff that has changed on the Esplanade, and we are now slowly coming to the main street. So as I initially said, I made now 2 building additions that I would normally not show right now, but instead like we always do in this time-lapse format. I mean, at some point you will see it in the time-lapse, but because today is pretty special, we can make an exception to that rule, I think. After all, by having this first half of this main street built in place, it displays this iconic architecture and scenery theme in the most wonderful appearance. And that's, I think, what we all care about here, that you get a glimpse of immersion in this park. In other words, it would make sense to have now all of this wonderful park here as a first release to public, and then those 2 empty building spots left, right? And so as you can see, the next 2 buildings are also very unique and iconic in their design. Especially the corner building took quite some patience, I'm not gonna lie here, but eventually I got it at some point. But yeah, also something that I did right here in this park file, I created like a little billboard with all the details to let people know that this project is documented on YouTube. I could imagine when they are downloading it straight from Frontier's workshop that they are unaware of that. I mean, let's be honest, this is still one of the biggest weaknesses of this Frontier workshop, that you cannot interact in any way with the creator itself. You cannot write any comment and let them know that their creation is amazing. I mean, back in the day with Flanker 1, I could even link the YouTube video to my creation. But again, I don't want to ramble here again. I think there is so much stuff currently happening around Frontier. Not only with Planet Zoo 2 and the upcoming update, and this DLC that is probably already out when I release this video, but even the announcement that they are working on a brand new Planet game behind the scenes. So what can I say? The future of this whole franchise here looks pretty bright, and I don't want to lose myself here again into some minor stuff. And to add to that, I'm so happy that they bring back those Vista points, because we will need them in this park here. Now, one thing that I like to mention here, that I positioned also in this park multiple spots where you can jump into the first person. And that's mainly the problem because literally all pathing that you see in my park here is made customly, and therefore when you want to place yourself down anywhere in the park, you can't do that because the custom scenery is blocking the path underneath. And so for any case, I'm just explaining it here. When you want to go to first person in this park, you press 2 times on the T key on your keyboard, and then you just simply hover over the area that I've made. And that way you are able to walk around in first person and experience the park in the proper way, how you might even have experienced it in reality. Oh, and by the way, since I just saw the tram passing by, I was so happy to see that in the next update we are getting the proper feature of placing tracked rides onto paths. That means we can create something realistically like a railroad crossing, which is simply amazing, and especially in perspective of our park here with this tram that is moving around, maybe our guests are finally able to evade it. I mean, listen, all those things we will not cover today in detail, and I have to get used to all that stuff, not only at the time this video releases, but also the upcoming weeks with this free update. But it leaves me by saying that you will get here so many new things, and the best part about it is that from this point onwards, it's synced with you. You are finally able to discover it for your own and to see the park dynamically grow over multiple years from today. Now, having said that, I still have to add that I'm of course more far ahead in the park, and you will see certain buildings appear over time when we reach a certain point also in the time-lapse. What I have to say, in the process as I was creating this whole Esplanade thing, it gave me quite some thought to that. At least for now, I like the idea much more to prioritize certain areas over other ones. So maybe the main street we are sticking to our approach with the time-lapse series, but for the Esplanade maybe not. Maybe we only show there partly certain important things. There's simply not the same visual hierarchy in a way. And one thing is pretty clear, and I can't avoid in seeing it, that I'm just way faster building ahead than actually recording all those episodes down. And so I wouldn't be too shocked to see that I'm at some point finished with the park, but the actual time-lapse series is lagging behind 3 or 4 years. And that's simply not healthy, and especially when I take the stance from you, I think there's way more excitement every time to see something new that you didn't expect it to see yet. So you have the element of surprise, and I think it's very vital, and you will see it actually just now in action. The ferry boat that we are having here is not static by any means. It's actually part of our animated ride that I have. Now the thing with those ferry boats on this location is that they are not simply like a ride and they driving in a circle. They're actually tethering out, and then they are rotating, and then they drive out of the dock. And to make now a reverse animation with the motion ride that we are having in the game, it was quite a struggle to get that animation properly, but not gonna lie, I think it works pretty good right now. I mean, the dream scenario would be, of course, that this whole thing is proper working and that people are actually coming from the ferry boat and entering then the park. Not even speaking about the actual aesthetic of this boat itself, since it looks, of course, way different in reality than this placeholder thing right here. But it kinda implies that you need there a station and place that is proper working, and you have to hide that in some way. And simply thinking about all the effort that you have to spend in order to make that illusion possible, I'm actually thinking about if it's really worth it at all. For us, it's way more convenient that we just have this boat animation happening and that people actually spawning in underneath this ferry boat station. I feel as long as there is traffic on this pier in some way, it keeps up this immersion in some way. So with having said that, I would like to end now our little tour here. I know it's a rather short video today, but it's really also not the purpose of it. I want to quickly show you all of the things and just announce that this park is now finally open to public. You can enjoy it, discover it, see all the wonderful detail, and hopefully immerse yourself in it. Just as a last little information here, we have currently over 353,000 pieces in the park, over 8,000 scenery groups, and the game is still running relatively fine for me. I'm getting 60 to 65 FPS with Nvidia's DLSS frame gen on, and this would be also my recommendation that you are playing with some sort of frame gen, either the one from Nvidia or AMD or maybe even lossless scaling, which is only $649. Lastly, I'm of course extremely hyped and excited about your reactions, how you like the park, how the performance is going, and just your overall opinion. So with having said that, as usual, I hope you enjoyed it today. If you did, subscribe, like or comment, support my work in this project by becoming a member, join our Discord server, read my typewritten documentary on Patreon, watch my other videos about Anaheim or Orlando, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.